we are here in Germany at the Institute of Nuclear Physics of the Johannes Gutenberg University Mainz, together with Josef Pochodzalla, who is leading the activity sphere in the framework of the HadronPhysics2 project of FP7. Josef, could you please briefly introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what MAMI is?
My name is Josef Pochodzalla. I'm an experimental physicist here at the Institute for Nuclear Physics in Mainz. I started my scientific career at the Max Planck Institute in Heidelberg. After that, I went for 2.5 years to the United States. When I came back to Germany, I continued my work at the Institute for Nuclear Physics in Frankfurt and at the GSI in Darmstadt. Since about 10 years, I'm here at the Institute for Nuclear Physics in Mainz, who's running the accelerator MAMI. MAMI is an acronym and stands for Mainz Mikrotron. It is indeed the largest facility of that kind in the field of hadron and nuclear physics, which is run by a university. Today I'm working mainly on experiments here in MAMI, but I'm also involved in experiments at Darmstadt, at the GSI and the Future Fair facility. Last but not least, I'm also spokesperson of the SPHERE activity within the Hadron2 project.
Josef, as you just said, you are involved in several experiments, and not only here in Mainz. What is your personal motivation for this broad activity?
In essence, nuclear research attempts to understand the nature of all manifestations of nuclear matter which we have in our universe. Protons and neutrons form the tiny core of an atomic nucleus. Even though they are very small compared to the size of a typical atom, they contain more than 99% of all the mass in our universe, in ourselves, and of course within an atom. Today we know that protons and neutrons are not elementary particles. They are a bound system of quarks. They are held together by a swarm of so-called gluons. A proton, for example, consists out of 2 so-called up quarks and 1 down quark, and a neutron combines 1 up quark and 2 down quarks. Nowadays, a nucleus is also seen as a system not of protons and neutrons, but as a system of gluons and quarks, and as a consequence, also the scope of nuclear physics has changed over the last years. It has broadened. We now want to understand the nucleon, the world around us, and also the stars in the universe in terms of quarks and gluons.
You are leading the SPHERE activity. What are the scientifically exciting aspects of your research project?
Well, for example, if you want to see how fast a river flows, what you could do, you could just throw in a leaf into the river, and then you can see and monitor the flow velocity immediately. In the experiments I described before, we do essentially the same thing. We replace a proton or a neutron by a different particle, a particle which is called a hyperon. A hyperon is very similar to the neutron, but instead of up and down quarks, it contains also a strange quark, which is different from the other kinds of quarks. These nuclei, which we produce by implanting such a hyperon into a nucleus, are called hypernuclei. This explains also the acronym SPHERE, which stands for Strange Particles in Hadronic Environment Research in Europe. The fact that the hyperon is slightly different from protons and neutrons gives us a different handle on the hadronic interactions, on their strong interaction inside the nucleus, because the hyperon will do things a little bit different from protons and neutrons. It is hoped that by probing the nucleus with this impurity that we can learn more about the structure of matter in general.
Who's actually participating in SPHERE?
Well, addressing this fundamental question, how nuclei are formed out of quarks and gluons, is a long-term project and requires the collaboration between experimentalists on one side, theoreticians on the other side. SPHERE brings together all groups, all leading groups and leading experts in the field of hypernuclear physics in Europe. These groups come from the Czech Republic, from Germany, from Israel, from Italy, from Poland, and Spain. On the experimental side, all major experiments in Europe are involved in the sphere activity. It is on one hand FINUDA at Daphne in Frascati in Italy, the HiFi experiment at the GSI in Darmstadt, the A1 Chaos collaboration here in Mainz, and of course also the Panda experiment at the Future Fair facility in Darmstadt.
What do you want to achieve with this activity?
The goal of SPHERE is to maintain and further strengthen the relations among the participating institutions, experimental physicists, theoretical research groups, and in that way to broaden and complement the existing and future research structure in Europe. In this way, SPHERE helps to to make efficient use of the available resources in Europe. In addition, the network SPHERE serves also as a partner for other networks worldwide.
In which way can society benefit from the activities of SPHERE?
Well, many new technical inventions which were developed in the past to perform basic research in physics are now part of our daily life. For example, high-energy heavy ion reactions studied in Berkeley and at the GSI over the last 30 years are now tools for the cancer therapy, for heavy ion cancer therapy, for example, here in Heidelberg in Germany. SPHERE is driven by the scientific curiosity of the participating physicists working in the field of hypernuclear physics. The immediate impact or the direct applications of the scientific outcome of this research for society is at the present stage difficult to predict. Basic research should always be seen as an investment into the future. Nonetheless, already now, Europe benefits from the activity SPHERE in several ways. As a consequence of the joint meeting between SPHERE and the JSPS networks, scientists from Japan and from the United States joined the experimental program here at MAMI. In this way, SPHERE helped to develop new partnerships and to strengthen the role of Europe on the international scientific landscape. Another direct benefit for society comes from the students which we train and educated by performing the research in this international network. These students get acquainted with Europe not only as a political and economic unity, but also as a social community. For these young generations, some of which will be the future leaders in science and industry, borders within Europe and even within the world no longer exist. This young generation will think European.
In general, why do you think should a young person choose to study science? And why should they do so in Europe?
Well, in the next decades, humankind is facing several fundamental challenges. Secure energy supply, better energy efficiency is one, restraining the climate change, and provide sufficient food and water for everyone on Earth. The development of new technologies will be crucial to address these fundamental questions. Innovative technologies often emerge from fundamental research. In that sense, the continuous support of fundamental research in Europe is essential and is a key element for our future. With its high technological standard, Europe offers the ideal infrastructure for this kind of research. Complemented by the brain power of students, I'm sure that Europe will play a crucial role in solving these problems of human mankind.
Josef, thank you very much for this interview. Would you like to add something to the German audience?
Ja, Nabila, auch ich möchte mich bedanken für dieses interessante Gespräch und für die Möglichkeit, hier einige Fragen zu beantworten. Ich habe selbst eine Frage an dich. Warum hast du eigentlich Physik hier in Mainz studiert?
Okay, also einer der Beweggründe, warum ich ein Physikstudium aufgenommen habe, ist die Neugier oder auch die Faszination gewesen. Die Neugier auf Ursachen, der uns umgebenden Vorgänge in Natur und Technik, also überhaupt diese Vorgänge begreifen zu können, verstehen zu können, auch wiedergeben zu können, das hat mich fasziniert und dazu bewegt, Physik zu studieren.